3, 2, 1. Anthony Darby.
Chuck Hen.
Very special guest, Obis Nwizugbo.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
I'm very excited to have you on, Obi.
Thanks. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Is this your first podcast?
This is my first podcast. It is.
Nice.
We're breaking them down left and right.
Yeah. We got
the
newbies
first
left and right
podcasters
coming
on.
on board. This is awesome. So for those folks may not be familiar, if you've been in our dispensary, you've definitely seen Obi do a pop-up. He's in there all the time. He's there this morning. Thank you so much for that. MPX is a really strong processor in our state. They make some phenomenal products. I am partial to their diamonds and sauce, as many
most are.
Many concentrate enthusiasts are. Boy, I mean, when I opened up a year and a half ago, and I was still smoking one type of flower for weeks at a time, I couldn't have even. I got excited for the variety of flower. I got excited for some of the concentrates, but I wasn't even thinking about things like diamonds and sauce. It wasn't even on my radar on the East Coast. That wasn't something that was ever available on the streets. So to see the sophistication so quickly in our concentrate game in Maryland is something that gets me super excited. And thank you guys for being leaders and continually introducing some of these newer products.
It's really fun. It's a fun time for sure.
So where are you from?
I'm originally born out in Long Island, New York.
Strong Island for the lacrosse players listening.
Yeah. I mean, that traffic is strong. But actually, I grew up in New Jersey, Union County, New Jersey, small town called Wholesale, New Jersey. And recently, I moved down to Maryland from Brooklyn, New York, to pursue,
For this role?
Yeah, for this specific role.
In line and then you relocate, or did you come down here and say I want to get in the industry?
No, I had the position before I relocated. It's a really, really crazy story.
So please tell, because one of the things people always want to know is how do I get in the industry? And you found a way to
absolutely.
do it, right?
Well, I'm at my now fiance's sister's wedding, and the ceremonies happen. We're now at the reception, enjoying some drinks and having dinner, and by the end of the night, my fiance comes up to me and she's like, "You need to come meet Julie Winter." Julie Winter and her sister run a cannabis company. And I immediately dart over to Julie and we start to have this really deep conversation about, what she's doing out in Arizona and the company she works for. Prior to this position, I worked as a medical device sales a territory manager in New York City. So I was, going to the OR every morning, and I've always been an advocate for cannabis. My studies were in biology, so go out to the arboretum and smoke some cannabis and think about trees. Pretty simple, right?
Always been a cannabis user?
I actually started smoking cannabis my freshman year of college.
Me too.
Yeah, that's when I started. I played basketball as well, and
did you booze in high school?
I did. In high school, no. High school, I did not. Yeah, high school was a no. College, I thought you said.
That's a different story.
My story was I boozed a lot in high school. I wasn't really a cannabis user, and then I got to college, and then that's when the migration started from certainly a co-user of both alcohol and cannabis all through college, and then started making the separation away from alcohol and really just straight to cannabis. So you were an enthusiast for cannabis. You're working in a medical field, and here comes this opportunity. So I guess you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I mean, now we're kind of like family relatives. But honestly, the next week, Julie invited me over to her sister's place, where at that point they were running, the cannabis business in Nevada, to their house, and kind of was there for an interview. Interestingly enough, their lead processor and one of the founding members of MPX were in town that week. So I got to meet them. Shout out to Bryant and Jason out in Arizona. Kind of was like an initial interview. We talked about my background. They talked about what I knew about cannabis. And then I would say in about a month, I flew out to Arizona to go and, sort of get my feet wet in the industry and see how because I'd be working in the wholesale row. Obviously working in sales before. So, I got an opportunity to go out to Arizona and see a thriving medical cannabis environment. I also got to go to Nevada.
What year is this?
It's now 2019, right?
Yeah.
So this was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much did you know about cannabis before Like I thought I knew about cannabis, and then I got in the industry and like I learned about cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I knew as well. I mean, like I had seen different strains, in my prior practices. I knew about how it was grown, but in terms of that's really it. I didn't know about really the difference between THCA and THC. I didn't know what CBG was. I didn't know what
You weren't talking
CBD.
cannabinoids
Yeah,
and terpene profiles.
No, not at all. Not at all. So.
The original opportunity, was it strictly for a process? Like, were you a wholesale opportunity for sales, selling processed products exclusively, or were you selling flower and processed products?
So, honestly, it was at the whim of what Maryland was going to allow us licensing wise. But
So is this prior to them getting a license in Maryland? I guess these conversations.
it kind of happened simultaneously.
At the same
Like
time.
they were looking for people to build the team here in Maryland. I guess they had just finished their management agreement and figured out what they were going to run, et cetera. So yeah, it was going to start out because it was a really small team at first, and now in Arizona, that's why I went out there, was to learn. So they were going to have a dispensary, and they were going to have at least be involved with the dispensary, and then be involved with obviously the processing. So my job was to come and help them sort of start this in the state, but definitely predominantly wholesaling and dealing with MPX.
And not calling you out, but I just think it's important to constantly bring the norm. I'm assuming you didn't get this huge bonus and pay raise when you took a job at MPX, correct?
Absolutely not. and I mean, I came from medical device sales in New York City,
which is
Abbott Labs.
It's
it
not
was
a slouch position.
Yeah,
in case you guys
yeah.
don't understand what that looks like in real terms. I mean,
Absolutely,
that's a great position.
absolutely. I mean, at the end
So
of
you
the
do
day,
it
it's
for the-
startups. They're startup companies.
There's startups. You do it for the love of
Absolutely.
cannabis. You want to help people. You see its value.
For sure.
So that's where it is.
For sure.
Were you able to apply a lot of your previous traditional medical background? Like, was that kind of your mindset? Was like, I view this as legit medicine, so I'm going to try to apply some of what I learned in the OR sales to this, or is it just completely like opposites?
No, I think that it's definitely almost one and the same, especially in Maryland where it's medical, it's strictly medical. Going into dispensary is a lot like going into a doctor's private practice in the morning. You're seeing patients, you're rubbing shoulders with patients, you're talking to dispensary staff who are the equivalent to, medical associates who are working in the doctor's office, the MAs. So it's very, very similar in that regard, because there's just so much patient interaction. I definitely do feel like my science background helped a little bit, just because of overall confidence with reading papers and understanding that there are different molecules that could all be a part of this conglomerate.
CB1, CB2 receptors.
Exactly.
Like, this is all stuff that's in your wheelhouse,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. And it was really important because it makes you believe in what you're selling, that there's actual backing and there's actual facts that are associated with what you're selling. That's always helpful in any medical sales.
Yeah. And then the other, just understanding like the COAs and all the testing stuff. So it's like a big thing. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that in medical devices. So it's probably an easy transition over.
Absolutely.
Kinda.
I mean, that's our ammunition for when you have people who are going to give you pushback. Not everyone is with cannabis, and that's okay, because there's not people can't know everything. My mom wasn't with cannabis until she had really, really bad sciatica, and I gave her some CBD for life pain rub, and now she uses it every day. Now she has a different outlook on cannabis. So I think that stuff always
So
is
many
helpful.
people need the experience. There's so many
Absolutely.
people that need their brother, sister, aunt, uncle, son, daughter to have some sort of trauma, get relief from cannabis, and then it's just, oh my gosh, like how could I not have seen that?
Absolutely.
And it's probably one of the most rewarding things that happens in our dispensaries when people come up and say, because we're very much centric to this town. Like when you think Salisbury, Maryland, you think Peninsula Alternative Health, and when I'm out in public and people come up and it's someone that I know is super conservative, or I know it's someone that maybe even looked down at me, or I knew was not cool with what we were doing when we said we were going to bring this, and then they're either in my waiting room, or I know it's a sibling or a spouse of someone, and you know that it's working, and like the proof is in the medicine. I mean, they're not getting dollar copays from insurance. This is not something that's very subsidized. This is not something that folks are really pushed to do unless it works. I mean, it'd be easier for them to go and get a script, but they're not finding the same relief that they're getting from us. So I mentioned that we are a small, very localized business. MPX is not. So MPX is a national brand. I mean, you guys are in...
Yeah, I mean, currently right now, actually processing MPX products. We are in Arizona, we are in Nevada, and we're in Maryland. But with our recent merger with Ianthus Capital, now we have a larger reach across the nation in more states with more licenses. So
will folks, will there be more states seeing the MPX brand?
Absolutely. The one I'm super excited for is my also home state, New Jersey. We won licensing there, so in some time we'll definitely have the MPX brand out there, and also in Massachusetts, I hope soon as well.
Do you guys find, like, at that level, I don't know how much you can speak to this, but I mean, the opportunity, at least as we kind of view it now, is on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And those markets out west are like really established stuff. Then you come back east and you look at these markets like you're talking about, New Jersey, Massachusetts, like huge population centers. So I think it's interesting that a lot of these companies that kind of got their start out west are trickling over kind of to the East Coast and bringing the stuff that they've learned over here.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give it up to, the OGs, no pun intended. Out west, Colorado, obviously, like Arizona. I didn't even know until I went to Arizona how ahead of the learning curve a place like Arizona is when it comes to cannabis, especially extracts. So, that was cool to see.
It's interesting. Like, if you think about the guys that are making the extracts, especially like the diamonds and stuff, a lot of them are Arizona-based companies.
Yeah. I mean, Arizona.
I don't want to say other companies by name, but we know they're there. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So, do you know MPX's approach? So Nevada is a rec state. Arizona is now, they have dual programs, correct?
Yes.
I know they have rec, but they still have a medical program in place. Does MPX making products, would I find the exact same products in Nevada and Arizona as I find in Maryland, or is there differentiation?
No. So, I mean, for us, we take a very obvious, scientific approach. So our formulation across the nation is the same. You may see difference in strains, obviously, just because of, material that's available in terms of starting material to make, like, let's say our higher level concentrates, like our diamonds. You can't, send weed across the country yet. So what's grown there is what we can extract. But I think that when I think about MPX, it's the simplest to think that we're just trying to make the highest potency, highest terpene content, cleanest product. So in going through that methodology, I think that's really how we try to make MPX products.
So I like that, because I think the fact that you guys take a scientific approach, it shouldn't matter necessarily if it's going to someone who is an adult that's consuming for relief that's not part of a medical program, or someone that's in a medical program. Like, we get the question a lot, like, what are you guys going to do when rec comes? And we've kind of been consistent in the fact that we believe that cannabis is a wellness tool. And if they make adult use the law, we're not all of a sudden going to put Grateful Dead bears and all of a sudden start wearing tie-dye and become this countercultural place. We'll just be giving the general public access to these very medically and scientifically created products like diamonds and sauce and things like that. So I think if you maintain that trueness to the science of medicine and the science of cannabis, whether it's in a medical program or a rec program, is not as important as, is this a tool that somebody can use for wellness and to get better?
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes people struggle with, how can something like 99% diamonds really have this therapeutic effect, and is there a place for it, or is this too potent of a product, because people obviously are going to get a higher level of intoxication off of that than they would using flower. But I would argue a couple of things about concentrates. One is when people are sick, to be able to dose at a much less frequent quantity. The idea of I wouldn't have to smoke 10 bong hits of flower when I can just take one dab. I've noticed that to be huge when I'm feeling sick. Like I got the flu a couple months ago, and I was amazed at how much dabbing was really helpful for me because my body was just beat up. I was sick. I didn't really want to do anything. I didn't want to eat anything, drink anything. To just go down and take one small dab was a very easy, quick way to medicate in a very strong way, and really my body aches, some of the pain that I was having, I got immediate relief. Also, folks that have been using cannabis for a long time and have high levels of tolerance, these concentrates provide a great bit of relief to those folks. So it's interesting, when you see these products come out, where's the most applicable patient population that you see?
I mean, that's tough to answer because I think the great thing about cannabis is, it's definitely, it's on an individual basis. So whatever your interaction with cannabis has been, you're the only person that's really going to be able to gauge what it should then become in the future or how it's going in general. I mean, I just try to think about it as like, we always talk about the entourage effect with patients, right? So for me, it's really important to have, high cannabinoids and high terpenoids interacting with each other. I think that's when you're going to get the most therapy. So the patients that need the most therapy, which should have a higher quantity of both of those things and ingest them in the cleanest way.
Yeah, no one's ever really out there necessarily emphasizing the point that and it's a catch-22. So my point is, you guys are putting out super high terpene profiles. When I mean high terpene profiles, I mean sometimes they're in the high teens and the 20s.
Yeah, sometimes 30s.
30s.
The guys out west, man, they kill it.
But and that relief to somebody. I mean, when you get a high terpene profile and you're seeing a lot of those stimulating terpenes, and you do a dab, so it's just kind of counteractive. It's high THC, but these terpenes are leading the show. The feeling that you can get and the sensations from that are amazing. So,
and the flavors. I mean, that's one thing that's just unbelievable sometimes. The flavor profile.
I've never smoked cigarettes. That's really been one of the biggest things that's driven me to dabbing is the taste. It's such a cleaner taste. You can actually taste the terpene profile in a way that when you're using combustion and fire and flower, you're never going to get. You're always going to get that ashy
And from
taste.
diamonds and sauce, the taste is just. I mean, the sauce sometimes it's just to me it's unbelievable every time. You get like a diamonds and sauce and it smells like oranges,
Yeah.
It's just it's awesome, and it all came from the cannabis plant. It all came from the cannabis plant.
So let me ask a question since I know way less about concentrates. Well, the most that I work with. So let's define, because diamonds and sauce is like the new cool thing on the street almost, I guess, right? In the world of dabbing and concentrates. So exactly what do you want to let everybody know? Because I'm sure that we do have some viewers who probably don't know, kind of like me, right? Yeah. Exactly what's the difference between the diamonds and the sauce and just a regular batter or live res or sugar, something like that?
The diamond is HCE, so high crystalline extract, and the sauce is high HTE, so high terpene extract. Basically through a variety of extraction processes and then post-processing, you can purify. THC will basically crystallize, purify within terpene extract through different post-process methods. Something like a live resin batter or cured resin batter, the live meaning it was harvested when it was alive and it was flash frozen, cured meaning it was basically dried, all that water and weight is removed from the plant before then it's extracted. And basically the difference is really just the consistencies. Sometimes saying another one, shatter a lot of times comes from trim. The trim, during the growth process of a bud, especially towards the end, you're trimming it. You preserve that trim, or when it's dried, you trim it.
Trim run or nug run.
Exactly. So like when it's been cured and you're trimming, and now you've got these nice little nugs. There's still trim on the tables. You can compile that trim together and then extract that has a certain amount of cannabinoids and terpenes, and then sometimes with higher yielding terpene plants or cannabinoid plants, like let's say a really good one has always been tangy. Tangy, for whatever reason, just it has a high resin concentration, is great for extraction. You extract that at a certain point, you can get these great initial extracts, and then through certain processes, you can end up with a live resin batter type of thing that you then whip and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to, we have a lead processor for all of that, but in general, there's just different consistencies of the
There's
of
the
the end
aging
extract.
process involved with diamonds and sauce too, correct?
Correct. It takes some time.
Because it's a crystallization process,
Absolutely.
right? So you're getting I've seen jars of it. When you look at, you'll see the terp sauce is almost more like a honey-ish style viscosity, and it's amber color typically, and it's like, picture like a mason jar, and then almost like rock candy in that is the THC crystals.
So basically that HTE is that high terpene extract, and at the beginning of that process there is, lots of THC in that, and that THC is actually a lot like water, where it wants to be with itself, so it starts to crystallize under certain conditions, obviously, in that HTC. After a while that stops happening. It's basically hit its max, and then at that point, at least for us, we create a ratio of that HCE with that HTE, and then that's that diamonds and sauce.
And that's what I really love, because Chuck, what some other folks are doing is they'll just be giving you the high THC concentrations. And if you have that THC diamond, although it's going to give you some euphoric effects, it's not going to have any taste, barely any taste at all.
Yeah.
And you're missing all the all the terpenes.
Now that's
so
a
when
great
they
point.
give you 20 or 30% terpenes, which gives you all your terpene activity, and then, oh, by the way, we threw a 99%
diamond.
THC diamond in there.
Yeah.
It's literally everything that you could ever want in a little tiny serving. It's action packed.
And those terpenes are, I can't stress enough how important they are. The reason someone likes Granddaddy Perp is not because of the THC content. It's because of that distribution of terpenes
We're
and
constantly
how those
preaching
affect you.
terpenes at our dispensary. We're like terpene snobs.
Yeah, for sure.
Not only is it terpenes, but it's cannabis derived terpenes for me.
Absolutely.
And I think, once all the flower started getting at like 25%, then at some point you have to say, okay, well, if the THC content's the same in all this flower, what's the difference? Oh, well, this has got 1.5% limonene, this has got high in myrcene, this is high in linalool. So the terpene conversation evolved, and then at that point, like, to me, that's the conversation. Is everything's got plenty of THC in at this point. Like, that shouldn't be your issue. Like, it's what terpenes are going to flow with you and what's really going to give you your desired effect.
Absolutely.
So, do you smoke flower anymore? Do you smoke
I do still smoke flower. Absolutely. I smoke flower that just smells good to me. I think that's probably the simplest way to go about it. Like, biologically, like, if it smells good to you, it's probably going to work with you.
When I went to Denver, that's what the guy told me. It was
Absolutely.
like, look, these guys have all crazy genetic profiles. The best thing to do is pop jars and smell it.
Yeah.
And they even cleanse my palate with coffee beans in between each smell.
Yeah.
And I'm still a big believer in the smell test.
And then, now obviously I'm using concentrates more, but I still like my flower. It has its place for sure, for me at least.
I kind of went up and down. It was funny. When my wife got pregnant, the smell of the flower was like bothering her. So I was like, no problem. Like, I'll just start dabbing. Like, and then, like,
Dabs all day.
That's
baby.
one thing.
I probably went,
Definitely more discreet.
I probably went like almost 4 or 5 months like without using flower at all. And to be honest with you, it destroyed my tolerance.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I was utilizing way too much to get the same desired effect as what I was trying to get before. And the great thing about cannabis is within, a 4 or 5 day change in my use, my tolerance was back down, and I basically just went on all flower diet.
You actually can also use CBD too to help mitigate your tolerance if it gets too high.
Is what?
If you start using CBD,
Yeah.
like a little bit more. I don't know, just something I've been noticing.
For me, it became an economics thing. I was spending and buying a lot more than I could justify
Yeah, for
that
sure.
I wanted to, and it was a quick refresh. So like a 4 or 5 day of just using flower, and now I'm kind of back in, I think, like a wheelhouse where, man, we got some Stardog flower in this week that was just phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
So I've used a little bit of that, but then
I think changing it up is really what it is too. Like,
I can't imagine
it's the
like
human
getting
body,
like one strain and that lasted us like a couple weeks.
Yeah,
before.
I'm always skeptical on the people who they're like, one strain works for me, it always works for me. I'm like, that's awesome, but
That's
like,
not me.
your body like just adapts,
And
right? So you want to switch it up. That's why I switch up strains. I don't smoke one strain for an entire week. That hasn't happened, unless I haven't been able to find anything else.
It's rare that I buy more than an eighth of any type of flower.
I agree. I'm with you.
I really believe that the changing up is so important.
Yeah, it is
well.
important. You definitely want to know the ones that you like for sure. But I think changing it up is definitely important.
Even I get that. I even see that myself, and I don't smoke as much as a lot of people. But even with the vape cartridges and stuff, before I'm even halfway through a single vape cartridge or something, it almost loses the desired effects that you have, and it's just a maintenance thing rather, something new. So the changing it up, I wholeheartedly agree that that's I think everybody should add a little variety.
Got it.
Right?
It's the spice of life.
Spice of life. Yep.
It's amazing how back to the scientific approach. I was really a pro flower, kind of a purist. And when Donnie was trying to convince me to start getting into concentrates, I didn't trust the source. I don't trust some dude in the garage who couldn't pass high school.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm really spoiled because I really started with concentrates with MPX because just where I'm from and just knowing that if I don't know where the source came from of a concentrate, and I know that they have to use a solvent in order to extract it, that immediately made me very, very skeptical of concentrates
you couldn't pass high school chemistry, but all the butane is out of that.
Exactly. Exactly. You did this in your garage.
and honestly, that's what he was bringing to me, right?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the best extractors, obviously, they started somewhere. But most of them will tell you that I didn't know how much ppm was left in butane. I had no idea.
Pretty quick, right?
And now there's a movement, right? And just like in cannabis as there is everywhere else, where everybody wants to know exactly what's in their products. So it's almost the job of the processors now to know exactly, and the growers and us, everybody wants to know where everything came from, and everybody should have the right to do that. And I think that's where the industry's gone.
My favorite part about the medical industry is that literally I can go to not only the dispensary, but it's your legal right to go to ask the processor for the COAs of anything that you buy. And honestly, it makes me feel comfortable about what I'm ingesting because now that I've worked with the processors, what can be in it. And
that's the worst part, or maybe the best part, right? When I think back to the stuff that I did try, even flour, you think that a guy who's making all his money on illegal cannabis gets a powder mildew problem. You think he's just throwing everything out? You think he's going to remediate that any way possible?
Interestingly enough, extracts is now the only way you could use that product because through extraction process is
the proper extraction. That's not a big deal.
You can remove that, but before that, then we've smoked moly bud at some point, guys. It's just probability wise. So.
And worse.
Yeah. Probably worse. Thank God we're lighting it on fire. That's probably the thing that's saving us.
But then inhaling it.
Yeah.
Even the vape pens now, I'm snobbish. If you show me a vape pen, it's a Super Mario Kart pen or some bullshit from California like that. No, thank you. I'm really particular.
You just you want it tested. You deserve it. You're a cannabis patient now. 2019, about to be 2020. You deserve to know what's in it.
So you weren't a patient in New York, right?
I was not.
Thought you get in Maryland?
Yeah, I am a patient now here currently in Maryland.
It is interesting how even the conversation today, you still feel this little bit of uncomfortableness talking about all the illegal activities that you had to do before the business was legal, but it's where we all came from. A lot of those extractors were grinding it out and learning in their basements and learning in their garages, and now they're given legit labs. And I can think of a couple that I know of the growers and the processors that they literally came up on their own and then were able to give an opportunity to go do it at a large scale and successful at it. So what is there from a product standpoint, have we hit exhaustion? What's past diamonds? Do we have, is there new things?
It's a great question. I wonder that so often.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you what's past diamonds, but I do think that everything will get better, especially when it comes to how many people can make great diamond products, or now obviously the live hash rosin is huge right now, which I think is really cool because the solventless game is like starting to blow up.
You're starting to see a lot of that.
Yeah. So, and I think it's just interesting because, like I said, like, you know, everyone should have an opportunity to have what they like or what have you. You know. I think that 99% pure THCA diamond is about as much as you're gonna get.
That's what I ask myself. I mean, besides like variety standpoints and like things like that. Like,
that's the thing I love.
Anything that's gonna like blow my mind from a
for sure. I think that right now, obviously in other parts of the country that have a more mature, just more mature genetics, more variety.
Been around for a while.
Like, I mean, I would love to extract, you know, some cookies, types of flowers, or I'm just saying a phenotype randomly, but like, or not a phenotype, but like a company, because that's what would be cool. Like, for example, recently I tried some GMO cookies out from in Arizona when I was out there, and it just tastes like garlic, mushroom, and onion. Like, it's crazy.
We just got that in.
Yeah. So like, because that's becoming a bigger, better, not a better strain, but a more popular strain. But then you talk about growing these strains to their like complete like maximum potential, and then extracting at its maximum potential. Like, that's where I think we're probably leading to, because, you know, I take a dab of like some like the MPX dab, and I taste 5 different flavors. You know, it doesn't just taste like, you know, Mandarin Sunset. It tastes like it's citrusy, and then it gets kind of skunky, and it's gassy, and then like that's where I think we'll go more and more. You'll see a lot more concentrates that are just like, you know, so flexible.
I want to go to the dab bar. I want to walk
up
exactly. And have a dude with
30
concentrates and say, I want a Sunset Crush, and he goes, oh, that means I'm gonna take a little mango haze, I'm gonna take a little orange dream and mix it up, and then
that's a good
there
idea.
you go, man. Like, that's what I get excited about, like stuff like that. But it does beg the question, like, we've progressed so quick and so far. I'm curious to see like if there are different types of products. One thing,
they're definitely
one thing that we haven't seen in Maryland, and I think it's because of the way we're regulated, but I know it's pretty popular out west, is the pressing, like at the dispensary.
At the dispensary.
Some of the guys out there.
I mean,
they're the same way, like you have your favorite bartender, you have your favorite presser, right? So like you're able to go and pick out whatever strain you want, and you walk over to your dude, and he presses it for you right in front of you, hands you the wax paper, and then you tip them, and you're walking out the door.
I mean, that definitely sounds cool. I think the first thing my mind goes to is like cleanliness of that. You know, if it's supposed to be an actual medical product, you know, let's follow some of the same guidelines that medical facilities that are making those types of products or any other types of products are following. You know, that's the one thing that I would be nervous about. But on the other hand, I would love to do that. You know, like that's the tough thing about it being, you know, a serious medical market. It's got to be great
where it's popular. So you bring up a great point, and I think your other point is very valid. Like I think more and more often, I'm asking our vendors to be more like a pharmaceutical company and less like an agricultural company, or more like an agricultural company. Like I think our patients more and more are wanting to see better packaging. They want to see more appropriate directions, and I think there's a bar that can still be achieved higher than what we're at right now for these folks.
Sure.
So I think that's where kind of a need is in some of the way that we do some of the things.
And I wonder, like, and for me, I always think about it now. Okay, like CBD's, THC and CBD, everybody know about, right? But you have all these other cannabinoids out there, CBG, CBN. So, like, I wonder if eventually science doesn't push it to get, you know, that purified version of a straight CBG or CBN to like for certain conditions and stuff.
I think that's happening. I think that's what we'll see.
Yeah, I think legal
sleep, like you'll have a high concentrated C, because we're starting to see it now. Like we have a field collection, which is a 1-to-1 of CBN and THC for sleep, which is really good. But as growers are able to grow high CBG strains, then the processors will be able to get more CBG out of the strain, and you'll be able to see.
See, the thing about it is like legalization will allow more hands to be in the pot in terms of even research. If you can make it legal now, educational institutions can now
traditional research facilities
they can start now to source. We can grow more. We can afford enough material to just to study CBN rather than to give it to patients who really need it. That type of thing.
Who were some of the better partners to MPX in Maryland? Like, where are you guys sourcing your flower? We talk a lot about that today.
Yeah, so right now in Maryland, we don't have a grow like we do in other parts of the country. So we're at the whim of the grows that allow us to work with their material and sell us their material. So right now we purchase a lot of our starting material from SunMed. We also purchase a lot of our starting material from Grow West, and those are the two that we've generally been buying. A great enough starting material to make diamonds. Also, Shore RX, can't forget those guys. Down here in Berlin, Maryland. Love Jacques the man.
We love Shore Natural as well. I remember seeing their sticker on some of your stuff. I got super excited.
For sure.
SunMed and Grow West are really important vendors in this process. They put out a lot of volume in the state and at a really good price. I was actually kind of taken back a little bit. I went up there, I guess maybe a month ago, sat down with Jake, and they're really cognizant of their position in the market. Like they know that they're not going to make some of the highest premium quality product. They're not making low-level stuff either. They're making quality product that's in a reasonable THC and cannabinoid and terpene profile and at a reasonable rate. And it's important that we have some growers that can put out that kind of volume because the processors are so dependent upon it. Even the processors that have the vertically integrated partner of the cultivation, most of them still can't grow enough for their processing. They're still buying from these other guys.
Absolutely.
So shout out to those guys. Also, SunMed and Grow West are some of the largest participants. We have a Canna Care program. They both are very diligent about sending us product and participating in that program for patients that are underserved and from a position of being able to afford their medicine. So shout out to both of those guys.
Yeah, I have to say SunMed's facility is, it's huge. It's beautiful. I really like their methodology of growing. It's very clean. It's very natural. They have a huge greenhouse. I think it's the biggest greenhouse in the country, I believe.
Oh, is it the country?
I couldn't be sure.
Definitely
of that,
the state for sure.
But definitely the state. I'm going to say the East Coast for sure when it comes to cannabis.
And after that expansion, it'd be hard to argue that.
Yeah, exactly. Right? But they do a great job there, and that leads to great extracts for us. Because a clean, fire in, fire out is what we say in the lab, and clean product usually yields a clean, end product for us. And then Grow West, sort of the same thing. They're out in Cumberland, Maryland, complete opposite way. And trust me, I've driven out. I drive out a lot. That's the one thing with MPX. We're really serious about our starting material. We go and put eyes on it a couple times during its growth process before we.
That's cool. So you guys are actually following the plants as they go through their maturation cycles all the way up to the end where you get it.
Absolutely.
A lot of the processors are starting to do that now. It's interesting how closely they're working. Sometimes even to the point of giving, I'm sure you give specific instructions on how you want the plants taken down and how you want them trimmed, and it all matters. How much of your stuff is nug run versus trim run?
I couldn't give you a ratio of what that is. I'll tell you right now, in other states, they can make diamonds from trim. Think about that. That's how yielding those, they've gotten their plants to where, they can accumulate so much of that resin and terpenes from just the trim. Now, we're not that afforded out here yet, but that's going to be okay because, Maryland just started. But typically, if we're doing, if we think it's going to be something that's going to turn into a diamond product, it's typically an entire nug, fresh frozen run,
Awesome. And MPX has got a really large footprint in Maryland. I think you said you guys are in 62 dispensaries right now.
And growing. Like every week, we got somebody who hasn't ordered before ordering something new,
Which is good because I know at first you guys weren't one of the original processors, right?
No,
you guys I guess about a year ago now, right?
Yeah, actually, the first time we released any products was October of 2018. So
it's a little bit less than a year.
Yeah, so it's been kind of cool. Like there'd be no MPX here, and then now you have to shout out Max Nostrin and Andrew Rich. and Pete Mindich as well. I mean, we started out here and really got the ball rolling.
So that's pretty impressive to be in 62 dispensaries and having a late start in less than a year. Because I know there's so many products available in the market, right? So us as dispensary owners, we have a lot of choice and availability. If you guys be in 90% of the market,
you guys almost start with a core team, right? I mean, Drew and so these guys were already running in the Maryland game for a little bit, and then there were some issues on the Eastern Shore, and then they relocated to a different business model. But Drew was a good partner from us from the very beginning. I mean, it's a funny story, but when we first opened our doors, our average patient was like 60 years old. I mean, in the very beginning, you think about it, everything was so expensive, like it wasn't very competitive, and it was still like a really early market. And Drew comes to me with Shatter, right? Tangy Shatter. And you gotta get it. And I was like, all right. Like, and at that point, like our operating budget was shoestring. I mean, we weren't able to buy a ton of products. We had to be very diligent.
We had to sell what we bought very quickly to keep the business operational.
And I bought
the college dorm room, like sales model. I feel
machine and an MMCC inspector. So I buy all this Shatter, and surprise, the over 60 population doesn't know what the hell to do with it, no clue what it is, and it's just sitting there. And I was like, oh no, like what am I going to do? And I ended up buying a bunch of glass and building a little starter kit. So you got a dab rig, you got a torch, you got a tool, you got a dab mat, you got everything you needed, and a half gram of Shatter all in this package. And I was amazed at how quickly we started driving the adoption. And people started picking up and Shatter, and then Shatter turned into, oh my gosh, we got sugar and butter and batter. And then that was probably the first time we saw a diamond come through was really wild. I wasn't even sure what I was looking at. I never saw cannabis look like that.
But you know it when you smell it. That's the one thing. You're just all of a sudden like, wait a second, that came from a cannabis plant. I
remember we toured Curio, and I got to open a jar full of juice. Is one of my favorite strains. Just the terpenes that were extracted from juice, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is like the plant on steroids.
I mean, honestly, like the closest thing to the plant alive and about to be harvested is like a diamond or concentrate. It smells the same. Sometimes it's a part of our SOPs, to be there when they're harvesting it. It's important to us, the plant. But on harvest day, it smells a certain way. The plant's ready. It's kind of done with this maturation cycle. And, there's been mango haze that you open the jar, the diamonds in sauce, and it smells exactly like it smelled on harvest day. So that's the one thing that's really cool about it.
That's the amazing thing to me. I mean, I think when we had Manny from Rhythm here, he was talking about like liquid flowers, like kind of how they brand their pens. And like for me, I find the Rhythm pens are amazing. And I agree. Like that was the closest we started getting to the flower, because like I am not a fan of flavored distillates. Like it just.
So when you say flavored distillates, you mean like
the ones that are like flavor, like blueberry.
Okay, yeah, me either. But if they're terpenes, they're cool. Okay.
But
because either like a menthol, like
it's not what you're looking for.
Like distillate pen is gross.
I do think that my palate, and you guys will probably prove me wrong pretty quick in your lab, but my assumption is that I can detect the taste of cannabis-derived terpenes versus non-cannabis-derived terpenes. Sometimes it's to do with the amount they put in. So, like, my example would be a processor came to me and said, do you want to white label a pen that's like only exclusive at your dispensary? And I was like, well, what strain? Like, what kind of flower are we using? And he sends me to trueterpenes.com and tells me to go pick out what strain I want.
I mean, there's obviously going to be a slight difference. I mean, because with, let's say a live resin sauce pen, which is, the HTE is coming, from the plant, right? It's a full spectrum of the terpenes, right? So you're not going to just have like linalool and then like caryophyllene and then limonene, like, you know what I mean? It's all there in like really, really small, like sometimes not detectable quantities.
0.09%.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that,
you're definitely there is definitely a difference for sure. I mean, but they're also very similar.
We have a lot of patients that, because of the cost effectiveness, and they some of them actually enjoy the taste, right?
Yeah,
Like they
for
taste
sure,
better
for sure.
Of the distillate. So I'm not saying there's not a place for it. Just for me personally, that's not where I'm typically going. I'm typically really going for the full spectrum cannabis derived terpene profiles.
Yeah.
So what's that? I mean, what's your profile? I mean, what do you?
Man, I really like it all. I mean, I just like
timing of day.
Yeah, timing of day. I mean, honestly, like the super citrus stuff is really great for the morning. You know, it just is good. It just is very, very energizing. Obviously, and that's why your Lysol smells like lemon, and you like your bathroom after. You know, but anyway, and then it changes throughout the day. Honestly, I mean, I definitely like a skunkier thing towards the evening, but it also depends on what I'm eating. Sometimes I'm like, I want to match my ice cream with some Mandarin Sunset. I don't know. Yeah, and I think right now it's like a time where, like, especially when it comes to working at MPX, we do a lot of work to get these products to come out, and our lab, the guys kill it in the lab, man. They bust their ass. Excuse my French.
No, it's all good.
And that is in AZ and in Nevada. The guys in Nevada, like the guys here in Maryland, they really do a lot of work. And like I said, it starts from the time the plant. We've kind of like are looking at a phenotype. The plant may be harvested in about 3 or 4 weeks is when we start to really get this plant ready to be extracted. So by the time it comes out, I'm trying this, and we are excited about it because there's, different varieties, et cetera. So it's not really about like what works, like what I love. It's just like, we want to make sure the quality is there because we put so much time into it. And then also too, like we said, like it's really awesome to get to try all these different, like serious, flavor combinations. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's been exciting to your point, to have all different combinations, because I used to just say, well, I like sativas, right? Because I typically, what I didn't like was medicating in the morning and like losing all my energy. Right? So I always thought that like I just didn't like those other strains. But now I've really found that I'm way more sophisticated in how and basically what I choose at the time that I choose it. Do I work out today or not? What's my schedule look like? Am I in flip flops or am I suited up? And I can go through all these different questions of what does my life have for me today? And then I can medicate based upon on that. And I think that's like the most amazing thing in the world to me, because before it was, I'm going to go pick up a bag. The first night is going to be figuring out, does this make me up, down, where's it going to be? And then it's now I have to medicate based upon these very set criteria of what the strain that I could get from my boy down the street has, as opposed to having a variety of products and saying, okay, today is this, and this, so this is going to be the best fit for me.
And it goes back to what we always say. Like we always tell people, like, cannabis is like a tool, right? Yeah. It's a tool that you can use. You might have a couple different tools in your toolbox within the cannabis spectrum, but there's so many different things that you can hone it in on, like your symptoms for the day or how you're feeling. And it's,
do I need sleep?
Do I need sleep? Do I need energy? Like it's the only thing in the world that I've come across that has all these kind of different aspects and benefits to it that you can hone it in. And we tell people, like, use it as a wellness tool.
That Mandarin Sunset grown by SunMed, that's definitely for nighttime for sure. Yeah. And then the sticky lemons grown by SunMed is like, you'll mow your front lawn, your back lawn, and you'll go to the gym, and you'll get the supermarket, and like SunMed, they grow some good plants, and then like strawberry fields from Grow West, like literally, it's like strawberries and super earthy, and it's like definitely a great hybrid like indica. So. Honestly, it's just cool to know that these are gonna work with me, especially at a concentrate level, because if it's like a faint sativa kind of, maybe the flower you won't really get that real big burst of sativa, but in a dab of it, you're gonna feel that profile. So that's what I like about it. Like for me, I'm a bigger guy, so it's like GDP. Let me dab GDP. When I want to chill, like joint or whatever. It's probably just too much flower at this point for me. I'm just like, it's just too much flower.
Oh, anything coming up in the next couple weeks? Any new strains or anything that you can tease?
Yeah, actually, I can. Well, we got some grape stomper.
Yeah.
No, I think I got it up here, but there are a lot of strains up there. I won't lie. Let's see what we got.
You know what's good when they go to the phone.
Yeah.
You start pulling up that pipeline report. It's like, all excited.
There's a couple. There's even some stuff I forgot about, to be honest with you, because Max does a good job. Like he puts it in process, and he's just keeping it back there. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, "That's right. What happened to that?" And it just is beautiful.
Where's the lab at?
Our lab is in Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Nice.
Yeah, I think. Isn't Logic from Gaithersburg?
Yeah, make sure you tell those guys we miss them because
for
Max
sure.
used to be in our dispensary all the time.
Yeah, because he was
Maybe
down
just
there.
drive
No,
it down.
I definitely will.
We,
And like I said, shout out to the lab, man. The lab, those guys
are
really
doing
bust
work
their
in
ass.
there.
All right, so we got Mandarin cookies, Afterburner, Cough OG, Grape Stomper, and Sour Diesel. Those are from Grow West. I don't have, unfortunately, the SunMed strains on me, but I think I saw GMO cookies. I'm not sure. But we have our sherbet breath. We have a bunch of sherbet breath batter from SunMed that yielded really well.
Breath strains are like a little bit new to me.
Yeah, they're definitely new. It's just newer genetics from out west that's like, coming over here.
We had Cameron on who from Shore Natural and got into the genetics game, and like it was the first time that I kind of made the connection from street to like science. So like, yeah, there's genetics and profiles that you can follow to figure out the lineage of these things, but you can also kind of go back to like, if you think about your smoking history over the last like
for sure
19 years, like when the diesels came out, like, yeah, that's a certain phenotype and has a taste profile, but like, you remember when you were first offered a sour diesel blunt, or someone came with flour with diesel or cheese. I remember Donnie brought blue cheese over, and I was like, this stuff is stinky. It smells like freaking cheese. I never had weed that smelled like cheese before. And even if you think about, like, I was listening to one of my favorite Pandora stations is Hip Hop Barbecue. Right?
That's one of my best friend's favorite ones.
It's like late 90s and early 2000s rap.
It's the good stuff.
And I was listening to, like, honestly, I was listening to like Mobb Deep and like Nas and like all this like late 90s, early 2000 rap. And I'm listening to them talk about hydro, and all of a sudden, like, it all started connecting to me that like these things, like, it's so funny to look at like the anecdotal, which was maybe instead of getting a bag, all of a sudden your buddy brought over a tube with some weed in it, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like the next level, and it had a name, and then like you think it's like the naming profile started coming through, the Blue Dreams of the world and things like that. And now to be able to look and be able to find the origination of all of them, and then see the plethora of hybrids that have come out, like these super hybrids, because they started with this and cut it with that, and it's peanut butter bread, jelly bread, like all these different things. It's wild.
It's cool, man. I mean, it's honestly infinite if you really think about it. There's it's just gonna keep building and building and building, and that's what's really fun about it, especially from the consumer standpoint. Like, there's gonna be something new at some point, at least strain wise, for sure.
I wonder if they'll get to a point, because I'm still very much in exploration mode. Like, I just went new still.
Yeah, no, I mean that's really where I'm at. That's really where I'm at too.
Everybody is.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm wondering, I wonder at what point that will, if ever, slow down.
I don't think it should. I mean, why not? If it keeps getting better, like that positive reinforcement will get you.
I guess at some point I'll get diminishing results, but I'm continuing to be more impressed. I'm continuing to have better experience. It keeps getting better, and until it's not, then I'm gonna keep.
Like, it's just, I feel like it's just like any other industry. Because I asked the same, like when I first saw diamonds come out, I remember if you guys or somebody else, I was like, 99.9% game's over. Like, that's it, what's next, right? I mean, but at the same time, we put a man on the moon in the 60s and we're still trying to fly spaceships there, right? So like, just in every industry in life, just when you think the pinnacle's reached, science breaks it down. And now, as legalization comes about and you get more research in it, like, I don't think any of us know what it's going to look like in 10 years.
I mean,
and I think it's going to
smell good,
right? It's going to smell good. It's going to be exciting on how we kind of get there.
And I wonder, like, in 20 years, will people smoke flower? Like, I'm sure there'll be a subset, but like, I can't imagine that market grows. And I also think that, like, what I think of what will happen is personalized medicine. Like, I think they'll get way more dialed into, okay, you did your 21andMe test. Here's your endocannabinoid system test.
Yeah.
And we pair everything.
And then
up
even like tracking within the dispensary, like once those technologies catch up, and now you know exactly what strain the person's had every time they've come here, and then you could do a regression line on which terpenes they tend to pick, and the next thing you know, like you're picking, you know, those terpenes. Like, no, it's gonna get just more and more obviously personalized, and then you know, there's just gonna be, I think, more flavors. I hope, you know, obviously everything is really a hybrid at this point, but maybe we'll go back to real, you know, purists. Yeah, maybe that'll go back there when they start to notice, you know, phenotypes are better. I don't know. It's good.
It's exciting. I mean, I was in a pharmacy today, and like this pharmacy is like, they're way back. I mean, they're stuck 15 years ago, and you walk in and everything is crowded and display. I mean, I felt like I walked back into 2000, and actually, Mary Pat, Dr. Hoffman used to work at this pharmacy, right? So we walk in there and they look at us almost like we're like from the future.
Yeah.
Like we have 10 heads.
You've been here the whole time.
And then one guy was like, well, I don't know how long all this is going to be around. And I'm like, I know that this seems crazy to you right now, but in 5 years, this is the norm. Like, we're not going back. Charlotte's not going to start having seizures again and stop taking CBD. Like, the cat is out of the bag. We are busy as hell because we're serving patients and people are getting better. Like, you can keep that mindset, but like, as personalized medicine comes through, as science becomes more involved, as research and barriers to research open up, this is here, man. I couldn't believe in this as a medicine more than anything, and I believed on it, and I gave these speeches to the community that this was what we were going to do, but I was still had this piece of not actually doing it. After a year and a half and serving, you know, over 3,000 individual patients, I mean, it is, the proof is there every day in what we do.
And one thing I did learn in like all my previous positions and this position is it's still healthcare. Yeah. And the patients are first, you know, patients first. So at the end of the day, some of my best days are when I leave a vendor day, and you know, I've talked to a couple patients who were literally like, I was at the end of my rope with not only, let's say, an illness, whether it be mental or physical. Sometimes you feel their relief from this, and like that's undeniable. It's not, you're never going to be able to tell someone that, you know, they weren't helped by this.
No, we have some really crazy stories, right? Like, we can't even necessarily even substantiate some of the claims that our patients are making to us.
Yeah.
But the obvious ones, pain, sleep, mental health, those are all there. But even outside the realm of what people traditionally think, hearing, right? We have a patient that's gotten her hearing back. Wow. And like,
wow, that's crazy.
There's no research. There's
that's crazy.
Like, I'm excited to see what we're able to substantiate and understand and learn more about the actual science and about this, because it's still a lot of storytelling. It's still a lot of things like this.
Like we just definitely need more research, and we just need, you know, the legal aspect of it to catch up so that we can do that research.
Yeah, you know? So you've mentioned that a couple of times, a legalized standpoint. I think in terms of adult use, I mean, one of the positions that I took when we talked about this in like first or second podcast was, I don't know the way that we get to the criminal justice results that we need. I don't know the way that we get to the research results that we need. I don't know any other way that we get to some of these goals that should be a common goal for all of us without making it a legal product. Because I used to have concerns over legalization from a standpoint of, I don't think cannabis is overly dangerous, but I don't necessarily think that it should be just something that's thrown out into the community without any type of restrictiveness, because I think someone will screw it up.
I agree.
Someone will go above and beyond what is reasonable, and then all of a sudden the naysayers will use that as the example. Right?
Yeah.
So I do think that if we're going to revise the system, it needs to be done methodically. It needs to be done appropriately. But I used to think that there was a middle ground with medical serving a purpose, but I'm with you now that I think for us to finally get to where we need to be on the research and the criminal justice and the grand scheme of things, we got to find a way to make this federally legal. So
yeah, for sure. And I think that what will help that particular endeavor is really in these medical markets, you know, creating that strong medical market and having that flourish. I mean, the rec market is great and all, but, you know, I've seen it in states like Nevada, you know, where it started off medical and then went quickly to recreational. You know, those lines at the medical window are super short, and the lines for the deals for the rec, you know, rec product are super long. But there are still people that really, really need, you know, the medical, and even it's the consultation that you get in the dispensary that's huge, right? And if you go to the dispensary or in Nevada and you know you need cannabis because you don't feel great, maybe you needed the consultation a little bit with the cannabis rather than just going to the getting a pre-roll and then leaving. Like maybe you need to sit down with a medical professional who's had some opportunities to do tons of research and now has seen, you know, tons of data and seen other patients with similar ailments. Results, you know, that's super important. That's really, really important.
We built our model around this fictitious patient, this 65-year-old woman who gets Lyme disease that's never used cannabis before a day in her life. If she can come in our dispensary and we can educate her and make her feel comfortable, then we can pretty much handle everybody. But to your point, like, I get text messages and stuff from people that go to other dispensaries, and the bud tender or whatever you want to call them is kind of like, what do you want, right? And they don't know. They have no clue what they want. They're scared. This is not something that they're excited. Like, I one time greeted a patient that told me, they were like, I just got my card, and I said something like, congratulations. And I said, no, like, I'm at the end of like my wits here. Like, this isn't like a celebratory thing for me. Like, I'm really like sick, and this is what I'm trying to do. And honestly, it changed my mindset. I'm like, shit, you know, like, we need to really understand that, like, not all of our patients are excited to be here. Some are embarrassed, some are scared, and we need to make sure that those are the ones that we're really handling. And like, we've always had a really patient-centric and medical model, to the point that even if adult use goes, like, I would still be willing to try to focus on just be the really medically, because I think there's dispensaries in the state that would much rather be a rec dispensary. They're only a medical dispensary because that's the only license that's available, and they want to dispense cannabis. But for us, we really believe in the patient model. We really want to work with hospitals. We want to work with the nursing homes and make this more of a traditionalized and normal matter, and not even just like an alternative health method. Like we named our business Alternative Health, even though I think it should not be looked at like that. It should be more looked at like a mainstream thing. So, where can people find MPX? Where can people find you? Drop your info. Drop MPX's info.
Cool. So you can definitely find us on our website, meltingpointextracts.com. You can find us on Instagram, MPX_US. On Instagram, just to see all of our products from across the country. And if you want to follow me, my Instagram is sleepybroccoli_MPX.
Definitely follow that now.
It's sleepybroccoli_MPX.
That's awesome. That's
awesome.
I think it's my favorite handle.
That might be.
That's a funny story handle, too.
You want to tell it?
I mean, I could tell it real quick.
Yeah.
So my nephew, now he's my nephew by marriage, but he has a memory game. The kid is like super smart, and he has all these like what look like Sesame Street characters, and one is literally like a broccoli Muppet, and its eyes are low, like it's so they don't call it high broccoli, they call it sleepy broccoli. And so every time he turns there, like sleepy broccoli. So yeah, I was like,
that story.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Obi, thank you so much.
No, thanks guys, I appreciate it.
Dude.
It's an honor. It's dope. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Keep doing what you guys are doing, man.
We'll try.
Putting out fire.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Signing out. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.